If you thought we were living in a free country here in Canada, it's time to think again, ladies and gentlemen, because when healthy, innocent people can be kidnapped by a bunch of thugs at an airport and shipped off into an isolation facility without their family knowing their whereabouts, that doesn't resemble anything even close to freedom. No, that's a steady march towards tyranny. This is exactly why I've been warning about these incremental moves for nearly 1 year now. If you look at this, I put this out a while back. New emergency measures will come from the Quarantine Act. This is not looking good for Canada. Guys, I put this out in March of 2020, nearly 1 year ago. And what was I saying in this video? Well, I was going through the Quarantine Act, and I was warning people about the fine lines within the Quarantine Act, saying that they would be able to use this in order to do exactly this. Isolate innocent Canadians. And back then, people were calling me a conspiracy theorist. They were saying, oh my God, this guy thinks the Quarantine Act is going to do this. No, the Quarantine Act is only meant for non-Canadians. It's only meant for travelers who are coming into the country who are outside of Canada, non-Canadians. And I said, no, you guys aren't reading the fine print here. They will be able to use this to detain innocent Canadians. In fact, I followed that up with this video. Canadian military ordered 36,000 units of tear gas and are setting up isolation camps for spring of 2021. I started calling it exactly like it is. This is still last year in October of 2020, calling it like it is, saying these are going to be isolation camps that are coming. And again, people were saying this guy's a conspiracy theorist, claiming that Canadians going to be swept up in isolation camps. Well, perhaps the only thing that I got wrong about this is that I said it's going to be in the spring of 2021. It looks like they're jumping the gun a little bit, people. They're antsy. They want you in these camps. So today we're going to take a look at this. It's happening now. Every single thing I've been warning about for the last few years, and nearly up to a year now when it comes to the COVID-19 84 nightmare, is happening. So we're going to look at this. Red Deer mother in tears as son is taken into undisclosed isolation center. They won't tell me who's picking him up. They won't tell me where he's going. They won't tell me anything. We're going to look at this gut-wrenching story from this pastor who had his wife taken into a private government facility, isolation camp, without him knowing where she is. And the way he describes it, it's just terrifying, guys. And we're also going to look at this case. A man who was once skeptical about all these things is now finding himself in one of these. Man forced into detention center in Canada. You'll have to forgive him for believing there's no COVID internment centers. Well, now I'm in one. So we're going to look at all of this, guys, and much, much more. But before we do, I'd ask that you check us out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you appreciate my work. This is where you can contribute a one-time donation with PayPal. You can contribute Bitcoin by clicking on this link here. If you like Patreon, you can join me on Patreon by clicking there. You can also contribute other cryptocurrencies by clicking on that link there. You can sign up here for a monthly reoccurring contribution that won't go to Patreon. It'll go directly to me. Or you can send an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca. And of course, if you prefer to keep it old school, you can always send cash, checks, or equipment, or simply just words of encouragement to my P.O. box. Links are located in the description below, guys. Please check that out if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information. All right, guys. So I don't want to be the kind of guy to have to say I told you so, because when I'm vindicated in ways that are, proven to be government clamping down and tyrannical, I don't like to be right. I don't like to be right, but here we are. I warned you guys that this was coming nearly a year ago. I laid it out in plain language here, and people continued to keep calling me conspiracy theorist. But anyways, here we are. So I hope you'll pay attention now, because what they have in store for the rest of 2021 is not looking good. But I'm here to tell you there are ways around all this tyranny. So let's start with this. Red Deer mother in tears as son taken to undisclosed isolation center. A Red Deer mom has told her anguish after watching her son being detained at the Calgary airport, loaded into a van and taken to an undisclosed isolation center. Rebecca McDonald was at the airport late Saturday night, hoping to welcome her son, Ethan, back to Calgary from Arizona. McDonald hadn't seen her son for 2 years, but the joy soon turned to tears when her son was taken into custody for having what the Canadian federal government considers the wrong COVID-19 test. They are saying it's not accurate, and they are wanting to take him to a quarantine facility. So even if you go through the correct procedures, you get the test in the country or the state that you're coming from and into Canada, they can say, nah, we reject that one. We disagree with it. They say, she says, they won't let me talk to him. They won't let me see him. They won't come and talk to me. The Border Patrol services say they have nothing to do with it. They won't tell me who has what to do with it, said McDonald in a social media video as she walked through the airport concourse. They won't tell me who's picking him up. They won't tell me where he's going. They won't tell me anything. They say he doesn't have a choice. That's it. It's the law. They say I don't have a right to talk to him. They are talking to him against my will, and they are taking him against my will and his will, and I'm not okay with that. I don't know what to do about it, and I don't know where I'm supposed to find him. I'm freaking out, she said, as she dissolved into tears. In a bid to level off the number of COVID-19 cases being brought in by returning travelers, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Friday, upon their arrival back into Canada, that they will be taken to an isolation facility and given another coronavirus test. If testing negative after 3 days, they will be able to leave the government facility and finish the rest of the quarantine period at home. If positive, they are taken to another isolation location for a 14-day time frame. And ladies and gentlemen, when the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau instituted this, he did announce that you are going to have to pay for that initial quarantine time. And in fact, Justin Trudeau's own brother recently tweeted this. He said, wow, it's going to cost me $12,000 to bring my wife and kids into Canada. Best part is we get to stay at Club Fed for 3 days while they decide in the back room whether our tests should be negative or positive based on the CT cycle level. What happens if one kid tests positive? So I said, that's brutal. It's wrong on so many levels. And he responded saying, it's tyrannical and it's not based on facts or science, but a powerful psychopathic cabal's agenda to further centralize power and oppress the human spirit. And remember, this is Trudeau's brother. It's a house of cards that will fall, but it will require us to all embrace our courage and to rise up and say no. I chimed in and said, tell your family, tell them to come irregularly. Then they'll be able to stay for free. Did you guys know that? That the illegal immigrants that Trudeau calls the irregular immigrants don't have to pay this $2,000 to $3,000 for their isolation period, the initial one. No, they get to come in for free. So I told Trudeau's brother, just tell your family members to come in irregularly. By the way, guys, if you missed it, I did interview his brother here, Kyle Kemper, PFT exclusive. Justin Trudeau's brother exposes the COVID-1984 global corptocracy. If you haven't seen that one, be sure to check it out. All right, let's continue. In a later social media post, McDonald said her worries are being extended because the health officials in question don't work weekends. I'm just angry now. There's zero accountability. There's no questions asked. There's nobody you can hold accountable for this, she said. I just want people to ask themselves what kind of Canada they want to live in. People fight long and hard for freedom, and this just feels really wrong. It's really, really wrong. She goes on to say that the article says the McDonald case was at least the second one in Calgary Airport to cause anguish amongst families. Edmonton pastor Chris Matthews told of his terrifying experience at the airport Thursday night when he went to pick up his wife Nikki. Now let's take a look at this story. I've reached out to this pastor for an interview. I have that may still be getting set up. We'll see, and if it does, great. I'll follow this up with an interview with him. But get a load of this. This just is absolutely horrific. But this is the state that we're in here in Canada. It's important to look at the facts. He says, it's time to wake up. I can't be silent any longer. I have honored the COVID process. I have kept silent when I've wanted to disagree. And I've chosen to take the high road when I haven't agreed with policies or procedures. But tonight, something has happened that is wildly concerning, and I can't stay silent anymore. My wife was in the States for work. She left 4 days ago. There were precautions that she needed to take in order to travel safely, which she was more than willing to do, and did. Canada introduced a rapid test program in December, which made traveling safe and easier during the pandemic, in quotes. She was free to travel as long as she had a negative test before she left for the States and another one before she came home. Canadian Airlines will not let you board the plane if you do not produce a negative result before boarding. She produced her negative result before boarding the flight home tonight on January 28th, 2021. She arrived in Calgary tonight, and when she got there, she was greeted by a police officer and a health official. They rejected her results and told her she needed to go immediately to an isolation facility. She was told if she resisted, she would be arrested. She called me, and I immediately asked to talk with the officer. I talked with both a police officer and an AHS official. They reiterated what she had said to me. I asked for the address of where she would be. They said they could not give me the location address as it was confidential. I asked for their names. Again, they would not give me any information on their names. Can you imagine in this country that this man's wife could be kidnapped by these thugs, and when he demands their badge number, demands their name, says, "Who's taking my wife? Canadian government?" They say, "We can't tell you that." Does that sound freedom to you? Does that sound like we're in a free country, ladies and gentlemen? This is disgusting. I pushed. I questioned. I tried to fight, but they said they would arrest her if she resisted. They would not give me any information on where they were taking my wife. She was not allowed to get her vehicle from the airport. She was immediately put in a white van, surrounded by police escorts, and taken to an unknown facility that is under full surveillance and has security at every entrance and exit. You can imagine I'm barely keeping myself together, wondering what in the world has happened in our country in what seems to be overnight. Will you pray with me that my wife would be kept safe and our family and children would be kept in perfect peace while this continues to unfold? She's an incredibly strong woman who is full of faith, but she's still a young woman and a mom who is traveling alone. Our rights are slipping right before our eyes and our freedoms are being stripped. It's time to wake up. Such a gut-wrenching story, and indeed it is time to wake up, guys. It's beyond time to wake up. That's the thing with this guy. He was probably one of the guys who used to be making fun of me, calling these just ridiculous conspiracy theories that these are isolation camps from the government. And yeah, so now he's changed his tune. You'll have to forgive Stephen Dusing for not believing that there are no COVID-19 internment centers in Canada. I'm in one, the 34-year-old Scarborough man told Toronto Sun on Tuesday, and not by choice. I was told when I arrived at Pearson International Airport on Sunday night from Charlotte that it was either 3 days quarantine or go to jail. Can you imagine that? A free, healthy individual being told something like that here in Canada. So he was escorted on a shuttle bus from Pearson to the nearby Radisson Hotel on Dixon Road. But this is no normal hotel stay, and indeed it's beyond not normal. We're going to get back to this article, but I did a little search here for Radisson Hotel. You can do it along with me. Radisson Hotel ownership. Who owns the Radisson Hotel? Appellate Holdings AB, Radisson Hotel Group. The owner of Radisson Hotel Group is Appellate Holdings, a consortium led by Jing Zhang of China. Radisson Hotel is owned by the Chinese. The Chinese government owns the facilities that Canadians are being held in isolation camps. Just let that sink in for a second, guys. Maybe you'll start to understand where this is all heading. I'm not allowed to leave the room, he said. There's a guard at the end of the hall. So he must remain in the 9th floor hotel room while waiting for the results of a COVID test that he was forced to take. Just get a look at the hallways that they have decked out here in this revamped Radisson that is owned by the Chinese, that is now a government isolation facility camp. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, Dan. Yeah, well, here it is, guys. Joined by award-winning photographer Jack Boland, I interviewed Steve on the phone from the parking lot as we looked at him through the window of his room where he could see a Tim Hortons and a Harvey's and a Subway and a Swiss Chalet, but he's told he can't order any of that food up to his room. He's effectively incarcerated. It feels like that, he said. I don't have any say about it. The worst part is, before he left from visiting a friend in North Carolina, he got a COVID-19 test as required by the new rules. It cost him $130 and he tested negative. Dusang said his ordeal began when the Public Health Agency of Canada didn't accept this rapid test and ordered him detained until the results of their own tests were known. The agency did not respond to the Sun's request for comment. I was escorted by police to a shuttle bus and taken to this hotel, which is fenced off from the public. It definitely has a detention center feel to it. There's a barrier preventing anybody from coming and going, and a security detail checks every vehicle entering the property. It's a lonely, solitary existence, he said. I should be allowed to leave at 10 p.m. tonight, he said. This doesn't seem legal in a free country. It also seems punitive. If he had a fever or a cough, perhaps precautionary measures of some kind could be taken. But taking away someone's liberty is obscene. It feels like a violation of basic human rights in a country that purports to champion such freedoms. A notice in his room said, "You must remain in your assigned room and are required to limit face-to-face contact with others outside of your immediate room assignment." Look at this disgusting prison-like sandwich that they gave him with like the top of a tomato cut off, some disgusting processed meat and processed cheese and lettuce and barely sauced up. It's just disgusting. Just like a prisoner, he gets water sent up and a sandwich. Again, he's looking out the window at these restaurants that he can't order from. You know, they're giving him prison food. "I don't have any symptoms," he said. "I'm angry, but other than that, I'm fine." But he worries about the 8 other people taken off his American airline flights and dozens of others inside this hotel. Some cried, said they would lose their jobs, or they didn't have babysitters. There's no leniency here either. They're no longer free. They're ordered into government custody. It's very annoying, but I couldn't imagine going through this with a family or having people waiting for me, he said. The big question is, will we have to pay to be forced into this hotel? Well, yeah. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has already said people will have to finance their own mandatory hotel quarantine when travelers land at Pearson. "I haven't signed anything," he said. Good. "Or agreed to pay for anything. And I won't," he said. "I think I got lucky and arrived the last day before you had to start paying, because Trudeau said people will have to pay $2,000 to $3,000 to stay the 3 days to cover the costs of security, doctors, and food. Whatever it costs, it's not a hotel stay. It's a bizarre pandemic rendition into a Canadian COVID containment hotel." Exactly what it is. Exactly what I've been warning you guys about for so long, and this is exactly where we are. You should be shocked. You should be outraged. You should be livid. And you should be ready to start making the proper moves to protect yourself and your family from this tyrannical government, namely getting outside of the clutches of their system. And there's a lot of ways that can be achieved, whether it means getting yourself completely out of debt. I know that's easier said than done for a lot of people, but when they have you in that position, they can squeeze their hands around your throat at any given time. So that's crucial moving forward, guys. But as we see this incremental move, as I said, which I started pointing out almost a year ago now, it ramped up into, I thought it was going to be spring of 2021, but they're jumping the gun here. It's happening right now. It's already happening right before our very eyes. Mom in tears, kid taken away, don't know where he is. Wives being taken away from their husbands. Regular, innocent, healthy people being scooped up and detained. The brother of the prime minister having to deal with thousands of dollars to try to get his family in here. Guys, this is just absolute craziness, and I'm going to continue to document this moving forward, and I hope you will follow me on all these other platforms that I've been posting to, like BitChute.com/pressfortruth, Library, lbry.tv/@pressfortruth. They have recently rebranded into Odyssey, odyssey.com/@pressfortruth. Links for all these are located in the description below. We have Float here, we have Minds, we have DLive, which I'm going to start actually moving away from and posting more on Odyssey patreon.com live. And here's also where you can support the efforts of this channel if you appreciate my work to bring you this information. Here is where the link is for Patreon. Here's a link for my Subscribestar account, which is a Patreon alternative. They're a little less likely to censor this information, so that's a great option. Again, you can PayPal me here, one-time donation with PayPal. I have a Go Get Funding campaign because, as you may recall, GoFunding terminated my campaign after I was attacked by Antifa and BLM back last summer. You guys also can send an e-transfer in. As I said, we have a P.O. box if you just want to send cash or checks of words of encouragement as well. Again, links are located in the description below. That's all for today, guys. Once again, if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please check all those links in the description below, and stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming very soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.